Greeting to Sir Faisal. I'm Shirley Ili, and today I will be representing my research proposal entitled Constraint of Participation in Physical Activity in Suburban Buffer Sabah. This study focuses on identifying the factors that limit participation in physical activity among individuals living in suburban community in Beaufort Sabah. Throughout this presentation, I will explain the background of the study, the literature review, and the research methodology that will be used to achieve the research objective. Physical activity is important for maintaining both physical and mental health. It helps reduce the risk of chronic disease such as diabetes, obesity, and hypertension, while improving overall quality of life. However, the level of physical activity participation in Malaysia remains relatively low because of many individuals have sedentary lifestyle due to work, study, and daily routines. There are several participation constraints that influence physical activity, including intrapersonal, interpersonal, and environmental constraints. In the context of suburban Beaufort Sabah, access to sport facilities and transportation may be limited, making participation more difficult. Previous study mainly focused on the urban communities. Therefore, this study focused especially on individuals living suburban Beaufort Sabah. Regular participation in physical activity is essential for maintaining physical and mental well-being. Despite the importance, participation rates remain low because many individuals face various constraints. Existing barriers include intrapersonal, interpersonal, and environmental factors. In addition, the context of suburban Beaufort present the accessibility challenge. Previous research mainly focused on urban populations. Therefore, their study aims to identify the constraints affecting participation in physical activity among individuals in Beaufort Sabah. As you can see, the purpose of this study is to identify the constraints influencing participation in physical activity among individuals living in suburban area of Sabah. The study focused on intrapersonal, interpersonal, and environmental constraints and aims to provide a clearer understanding of this barrier. For this slide, research objective and research question. This study consists of 4 research objectives and 4 corresponding research questions that identify the participation level and examine the influence of interpersonal, intrapersonal, and environmental factors on participation in physical activity. For research hypotheses, the independent variables are intrapersonal, interpersonal, and environmental factors, while the dependent variable is participation in physical activity. The null hypothesis states that there is no significant relationship, whereas the alternative hypothesis states that there is a significant relationship between this variable and participations in physical activity. For the significance of study, academic contributions. Its reference for the future study in Beaufort Sabah also expand knowledge on physical activity constraints. For industry contributions, it helps both provides understand participation barriers and support better programs, planning and accessibility. For community contributions, increase awareness of physical activity importance. It will encourage community participation, sport and recreations. For government's contributions, support evidence-based policy making and assist improvement of facility and accessibility. For delimitations and limitations, the study is limited to suburban Beaufort Sabah using a quantitative questionnaire. For limitations include self-reported response, limited geographical coverage, and possible influencing factor not included in this study. For assumptions, the study assumed respondents answer honestly, understand the questionnaire, represent the target population, and that the identified constraints are the major factor influencing participations in suburban Beaufort Sabah. For operational definition, the slide is defined physical activity, intrapersonal factor, interpersonal factor, environmental factor, and participation in physical activity are used throughout the study. In this slide, it's about literature review. According to Cassandra Frederick 2018, it's talk about physical activity improves health, reduce aging-related problems, and enhance overall well-being. It's conducted among the minority ethics community in Sabah, Malaysia. For Cabans 2021, it's about lack of time, low motivations, lack of social support, and limited sport facility. For Cabos Valente in 2026, it's talk about a better infrastructure and well-maintained facility increased participations in physical activity. Also, accessibility to sport facilities and safe environments play an important role in participation in physical activity. For conceptual framework, independence variable, we have three parts, which is one of it is intrapersonal factor, where is a lack of times, low motivations, low self-efficiency. The second is interpersonal factor, which is social support. There's no family support. There's no encouragement from others. But the last one is environmental factor. There's availability of facilities and accessibility, safety and security. Also weather conditions. For the dependent variables, we have a participation physical activity. For research methodology, this study adopts quantitative, cross-sectional survey design using structured questionnaire and descriptive research design. For population sample and sampling technique, the target population is 77,100 individuals living in suburban Bopet. Convenience sampling will be used, and based on Craigie and Morgan's, the required sample size is 382 respondents to take. For instrumentations and pilot study, for section of questionnaire, we have three sections, which is section A is demographic, have 5 items, and section B is physical activity participation, have 6 items, and section C, constraints of participations, and total have 27. For total items, we have 38 items. It's adapted sources from a physical activity participation from WHO Globals and Action Plans 2020 and constraint of participations adapt from a Cabans 2021. For the measurement scale, I have 5-point Likert scale. For data collection procedure, this study follow questionnaire developments. Expert validations, a pilot study, questionnaire distributions through Google Forms, and data screening and analyzed by SPSS analysis. For data analysis, data will be analyzed using SPSS through data screening, descriptive statistic, crunch alpha reliability analysis, correlation analysis, and multiple regression analysis.